Number 7. Regip chettin. In August of 2011, the bodies of 2 Irish women were found buried in shallow graves in the woods outside the popular Turkish resort town of Kusadasi. Subsequent medical examinations determined that the victims, identified as Marion Graham and her friend Kathy Dinsmore, had been fatally stabbed. During the investigation that followed, local police brought waiter Regip Chettin in for questioning. The latter had been dating Graham's teenage daughter Shannon for a period of roughly 2 years. The young couple shared a villa in Kusadasi with the 2 victims, but neighbors told investigators that the tenants would regularly engage in contentious shouting matches. While being interviewed by the police, Chettin initially claimed that the 2 victims had been abducted by a gang of men who took them to a nearby forest. However, after a few hours of interrogation, he confessed to committing the killings, and he was arrested on murder charges. The waiter revealed that on the night of the double homicide, he'd pleaded with Graham to allow her daughter to marry him when the woman refused, stating that Shannon was too young for him. He brutally attacked her and Dinsmore in a fit of vengeful rage. Chettin then attempted to be tried in juvenile courts by claiming he was 17 years old, but bone marrow tests confirmed that the waiter was actually aged 22. Following his criminal trial, Chettin was sentenced to life imprisonment. Number 6. Alexandria Celetos. A man was beaten and robbed outside the Drink nightclub in Tampa, Florida, in the early morning hours of February the 16th of 2017. According to local authorities, the victim, who was left unidentified in subsequent reports on the incident, was accosted by 2 assailants who fled the scene in a vehicle belonging to Alexandria Celetos. The latter, who'd reportedly worked at the club as a waitress for about 4 months before being terminated, told the police that her car had been stolen by the 2 men. However, following further investigation into the matter, it was determined that Celetos had freely given her vehicle to the men. Detectives also found that she'd personally instructed them to carry out the violent robbery for reasons that weren't immediately revealed to the public. The former server was consequently arrested and charged with principal to robbery, principal to kidnapping, and filing a false report. Number 5. Kiara Marie Calderado. On the night of October the 8th of 2019, server Kiara Marie Calderado got into a physical altercation with a female cook at a Waffle House in Wildwood, Florida. According to the resulting arrest report, 18-year-old Calderado had ignored the cook when she indicated that an order was ready to be taken to a customer. The woman made a second attempt to inform the server that the order was ready, prompting the latter to ask, "Why are you yelling at me?" The cook then turned around to resume her duties, at which point Calderado allegedly charged toward her and forcefully grabbed her by the hair. The young woman then took the cook to the ground and started kicking her until a third Waffle House employee intervened to break up the scuffle. Calderado fled the scene, but local police issued a warrant for her arrest after reviewing the incident on the restaurant's surveillance footage. She ultimately turned herself in at the Sumter County Sheriff's Office Public Safety Building in the Villages. Calderado, a Connecticut native, was booked into the Sumter County Detention Center on a charge of battery. Number 4. Victoria Lynnbachmann. On April the 10th of 2015, Victoria Lynnbachmann was fired from her job as a waitress at the Ozona Blue restaurant in Palm Harbor, Florida, after it was found that she'd been secretly increasing the tips on her customers' checks. According to the affidavit associated with 21-year-old Bachmann's arrest, she'd changed the tip amount on 134 checks. During her employment at the establishment, the Pinellas County Police Department detailed how, when inputting her tips into the restaurant's computer system, the young woman would enter a higher amount than the customers had actually written on the bill. The scheme had reportedly resulted in a total of $1,074.15 being fraudulently charged to customers. Bachmann faced grand theft charges in connection to the fraud. She was later released from custody on a $2,000 bond, pending the start of her case's legal proceedings. Number 3. Georgina Henshaw. 65-year-old chef Philip Rolfe was found critically injured in his car outside an apartment in the West Midlands region of England in the early hours of July the 7th of 2017. Rolfe, who'd suffered several stab wounds, was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he was ultimately pronounced dead as a result of excessive internal bleeding. The apartment outside of which the car had been parked was determined to have belonged to Georgina Henshaw, a waitress who worked with Rolf at the Toby Carvery pub and restaurant in Birmingham. The 36-year-old woman was taken to the police station to undergo a line of questioning, during which she reportedly feigned ignorance as to the circumstances surrounding Rolf's presumed murder.
Georgina? It's the police. Just going to wait for a van to come round.
Why am I being arrested?
Obviously, they need to question you. They can't be on suspicion of what's happened tonight.
What? Nothing's happened.
Okay, and what you may or may not know. I can't ask you any questions, and to be fair, I don't know very much about
Are you telling me
it.
that Phil's dead?
Yes.
Seriously?
That's why.
It's serious?
Yes. Let's not discuss it.
Investigators examined Henshaw's phone records, whereupon it was discovered that during past text conversations with a friend, she'd expressed overwhelming animosity towards the victim, as well as an explicit desire to kill him. In one such message, Henshaw wrote that she was going to lure him to her apartment and beat him with a kosh, also stating that she was set up to commit murder. Henshaw was thus named as the prime suspect in Rolf's killing, and West Midlands police arrested the woman at her home, after which she was formally charged with the murder. The authorities didn't immediately indicate what they'd suspected to have been Henshaw's motive for the crime. However, it was speculated that Rolf had been embroiled in a contentious workplace feud with the waitress that had ultimately escalated to the point of extreme violence. Following a trial at Birmingham Crown Court, Henshaw was sentenced to serve at least 16 years behind bars. Today's topic was requested by Liz Chawinski, Julie Steele, and Kristen Noyes. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comment section below. Number 2. David Carroll Masoner. Over the course of 3 years, Tennessee man David Carroll Masoner pilfered credit cards from patrons he'd served at the West Knoxville restaurants where he worked. It was reported that the 46-year-old had used his customers' stolen financial information to take out cash for himself and purchase various items including meals and gift cards. In the summer of 2017, however, Masoner unknowingly applied the scheme to a credit card belonging to an employee of the U.S. Attorney's Office. The unnamed woman would regularly check her billing statements and immediately noticed the fraudulent charges. In the wake of her discovery, she cancelled her credit card and contacted both state and federal authorities, who were able to identify Masoner as the person behind the financial fraud. Agents with the Tennessee Highway Patrol's Identity Crimes Unit, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the U.S. Secret Service arrested the server, who confessed to his extensive identity theft scheme. It subsequently emerged that Masoner had 27 previous felony convictions on his record, many of which involved credit card fraud. In spite of his criminal history, he'd managed to find employment at Honey Baked Hams, the Bearden Field House, Perro's on the Hill, and Silver Spoon in Knoxville. Masoner ultimately pleaded guilty to 3 counts of identity theft, and he was consequently sentenced to 12 years in prison by a Knox County Criminal Court judge. Number 1. Alberto Sanchez Gomez. In February of 2019, Spanish waiter Alberto Sanchez Gomez fatally strangled his mother following a heated row at their shared Madrid residence. Subsequent reports detailed how after the 68-year-old woman was dead, Sanchez used a carpenter's saw and 2 large kitchen knives to dismember her body into thousands of pieces, which he stored in lunchboxes placed around the apartment. According to The Independent, over the weeks that followed, the 28-year-old server proceeded to consume his mother's mutilated remains, eating some parts raw and others cooked. Local police were eventually notified by a friend of the victims that she hadn't been seen for several weeks. On February the 21st, law enforcement officers were dispatched to Sanchez's home to conduct a welfare check on his mother. When asked if the woman was in the apartment, the server reportedly replied, "Yes, my mother is in here, dead." Sanchez initially described his mother's grisly killing in graphic detail, prompting the police to take him into custody. However, during the murder trial that followed, the man indicated that he'd heard hidden messages when he watched TV that told him to kill his mother. He also maintained that he had no recollection of dismembering the woman's corpse and that he was very repentant for his gruesome actions. The jury ultimately found Sanchez guilty of murder, for which he was sentenced to 15 years in prison, plus an additional 5 months for the desecration of a corpse. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have your waiters check on you every 2 minutes or receive hourly text alerts with your bank account balance? Let us know in the comments section below.